Fantasy Football Almost Daily is brought to you by Fanball, and the Week 7 Fanball Winners contests are up now on the Fanball mobile app. That includes the Thursday night contest between the Steelers and the Bengals, and I'm about to preview that matchup on today's episode. Who's going to have more fantasy points among these two grizzled vets? Is it Joe Flacco or Aaron Rodgers? Pick the best running back in the game. I think I got a good clue who that's going to be. And the best receiver from the Steelers receivers and the best receiver from the Bengals receivers. I think you can probably figure that one out too. Pick the winners in those four groups of four, and you split the pot with your fellow winners. Join now on Fanball. Use the promo code ALMOST for a $20 deposit match. Come pick the winners with us. And today's show is also brought to you by Game Blazers, which just announced its single biggest weekly prize pool ever. $75,000 will be given away during Week 9's midseason madness, which means you still got a few weeks to stock up your inventory and stack those lineups. 4 to 5 packs, they're still on sale for just $5 while supplies last. I think I saw that there was under 2,000 of those packs left. So act now, get a few of those packs of these 3 untradeable items for just $5. And if you use promo code FFAD when you make your first deposit, they'll match it up to $100. Build your ultimate fantasy team now over at Game Blazers. Today, we're going to preview the Thursday night contest between the Steelers and the Bengals. Some are dubbing this game the Icy Hot Bowl because it's a rare matchup between two quarterbacks in their 40s. But before that, let's hear Less Than Jake.
From the Sports Hub Games Network, this is Fantasy Football Almost Daily with your host, Matt Harrison.
Hey friends, it's Matt Harrison back again. You can find me on Twitter or on Blue Sky at Explosive Output. Blue Sky is the only one I have on my phone right now. So if you have any fantasy questions and you want me to answer them, go follow me there and I'll actually respond to you. Good afternoon, good Thursday or Wednesday to you. We're going to preview the Thursday night game, Fantasy Football Weekly style, and Charge can't stop me from giving plus and minus grades. That's the most fun. But this Friday, you can also find Thor, Brian, and the one and only Charge previewing all these weekends games on Fantasy Football Weekly. That episode will be up late Friday afternoon on your favorite podcast platform. But we're just talking Steelers and Bengals, and we're going to start with the visiting Steelers. There's only one real key injury here on the Steelers side, and it's Calvin Austin, who looks like he's going to miss Thursday. He hasn't been ruled out yet, but it sounds ominous in all the reports. So let's stay in the passing game. I'll give DK Metcalf an A- grade in this one. Metcalf has scored in 4 straight, and last week saw 9 targets against the Browns, which was a season high. He converted that into 4 catches, 95 yards, and of course that score. The Bengals have been bend but don't break against the wide receiver position this year. They've allowed the 6th most receiving yards to wide receivers at 156 per game, and I think a lot of that will go Metcalf's way. But they've only allowed 4 touchdowns to wide receivers, which is the 7th fewest in the league. So 10 different wide receivers have hit the double-digit PPR mark against the Bengals so far. I feel fairly confident that Metcalf can also find the end zone, so a very strong A- grade here. Maybe it's not surprising that Aaron Rodgers hasn't topped 244 passing yards in a game this season, and his 4-touchdown outburst in Week 1 was his best fantasy game of the year by far from both a yardage and touchdown perspective. But he's been efficient and more of a caretaker quarterback than any time in his career. But this is a spot that you can use him against Cincinnati, and if not now, when? The Bengals have allowed multiple touchdown passes to 4 of the last 5 quarterbacks they've faced, and the 2nd most passing yards in the league this season. If Rodgers can't crack your lineup now, he probably should be on the waiver wire in your league. He gets a B- grade. As for the tight end position, it's maybe the best matchup in the league for Steelers tight ends this week. The Bengals have allowed the 2nd most receiving touchdowns, the 8th most receptions, and the 6th most yards to tight ends. If the Steelers had one tight end, this would be great. But right now they're rocking 4. It's Darnell Washington, the one who's dominating snap counts as of the last 2 weeks. He had 90% of the snaps last week. Jonnu Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Connor Hayward are all in play. Splitting this 4 ways is just not fun, so I'm leaving them all on the bench. I'm fully aware that one will probably score in this game, and another will probably get to the 60-yard mark. but it's really a guessing game that I don't want to play. But my eyeball is kind of looking at Darnell Washington. They keep finding ways to get him on the field. They're giving him some rushes. They're lining him up in the backfield as a fullback. He's a big dude to handle, and I think that he's a guy that just might continue to get more snaps on the field for the Steelers as we go down the stretch. Finally, the Steelers running back position. I think we're back to Jaylen Warren being the lead back, although Kenneth Gainwell did outscore him in fantasy last week. Let's dig into the numbers a little bit. Warren led the snaps 31-20, which I think is why we think that he's the lead back. But in touches, Warren only led 13-12, and Gainwell only had 6 rushing attempts, but he caught all 6 of his targets last week, granted for only 14 yards, so pretty low efficiency there, only like 2 yards per catch. But that PPR stuff does add up. The Bengals are the worst run defense in the league, the second most rushing yards allowed per game, the 5th most receiving yards allowed to opposing backs. Adds up to the 3rd most combo yards and the 2nd most combo touchdowns allowed. They've allowed 10 touchdowns to running backs in 6 games this season. Last year, 4 teams allowed 10 or fewer total running back touchdowns all year, all 17 games. So both Warren and Gainwell are startable here. I'll throw a B grade on Warren and a C+ grade on Gainwell. On the Cincy side, let's start with Joe Flacco. Last week, he had about 3 days before he started for a brand new team. He threw the most pass attempts of any Bengals quarterback all year with 45 chucks. Eye test, some of it was off, some of it was mistimed, but he's still got the deep ball. He's really good at those intermediate, like 20-yard passes. And he's got a great duo of wide receivers, probably for sure the best wide receivers he's ever had in his career. The Steelers are a middle-of-the-pack pass defense, and they gave up multiple touchdown passes to Sam Darnold, Drake May, and Carson Wentz in the last couple of weeks. The only one they've completely held in check this year from the quarterback standpoint was Flacco's replacement in Cleveland, Dylan Gabriel. So I've got a C grade on Joe Flacco. The Cincy defense is terrible. Obviously, he's not playing the Cincy defense, but they're going to give up points, and the game script should favor Flacco throwing to Chase and Higgins all day long in this one. Jamar Chase, by the way, he's an easy A grade, 12 targets, 10 catches, 94 yards, and a score last week against the Packers. T. Higgins startable with a B- grade too. And I think if there's some Higgins owners out there who've been a little sad with his lack of quarterback play and lack of stats that he really put up, I think this is the time to go try to acquire T. Higgins right now. Last week, Higgins tied his season high with 8 targets, but he did set a season high with 5 catches and 62 yards. And the Bengals are going to be throwing the rest of the year. They're going to be throwing. They can't get anything done in the run game. I'll talk about that in a minute. But I do worry that the combo of Joey Porter Jr., Darius Slay, and Jalen Ramsey have been a pretty solid cornerback trio for the Steelers this season. But notably, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison each put up a big day against the secondary in Ireland with Carson Wentz at the helm. They both topped 100 yards in this one. I don't think the Bengals are worse than that right now with Flacco and Chase and Higgins. So B- for T. Higgins. Mike Gesicki was placed on IR, which theoretically could help Noah Fant become more relevant, or suddenly it makes Drew Sample and Tanner Hudson in the game more. And I think it's probably more of a 3-way split than any of us want to admit. I can't recommend Fant in this matchup, even though the Steelers have allowed the 7th most receiving yards to the tight end position. Finally, I alluded to it. Let's talk Chase Brown, maybe one of the biggest fantasy disappointments of the season. I don't know if it's his fault, though. He's only averaging 33 yards per game on the ground, and he's only scored once this season. His one saving grace is that he's been a helper in the passing game. He's caught 20 of his 24 targets this season. He's tied for 7th in the league amongst running backs for the most receptions. The Bengals have the worst run blocking team grade by Pro Football Focus. And they were bad last year. They were 29th last year. Their grade got 13 points worse out of 100. It went from a 50 to a 37. Their ESPN run block win rate is 27th in the league. And Brown has negative 54 yards before contact this year. He's getting hit in the backfield consistently. That's the worst score, negative 54 yards before contact in the NFL since 2018. The Steelers, pretty good against the run. Top 10 in rush yards, rush touchdowns, receptions allowed to running backs. It's only been 3 combo touchdowns to running backs all year. So if you can leave Chase Brown on your bench, that's your best option this week. And if you have to start him, it's a terrible, terrible D+ starting grade. And we don't even give out D+ starting grades on Fantasy Football Weekly more often. And Charch is rolling over in his grave right now, even though he's not dead. You're hoping for Chase Brown to get a lot of receptions and maybe a short touchdown run, but that's it. You just don't have the matchup this week. And Chase Brown and his offensive line haven't been good yet. So that's it. That's the whole lineup wrapped up in a nutshell. And I should say, I pretty much gave you the answer key for Fanball Winners. You can go play that for $1 and win your share of the $100 prize this week. But I'll remind you about Game Blazers. You can win your share of $750,000 in guaranteed cash prizes in free roll contests over at Game Blazers. Promo code FFAD again for a $100 deposit match. Go register today. We'll be back tomorrow with another show with Trevor Jones as we preview this week's favorite DFS plays. We hope to have your eyeballs and ear holes back for another Fantasy Football Almost Daily tomorrow, maybe.
Subtracted